Welcome to Girl Talk, and we have a great show ahead for you today. We're covering just a variety of different topics today, as usual, which is what makes this show so great, I think. And we're starting off, coming at the end of the show today, we'll be talking about oil changes. And Jessa, you actually headed out there and checked it out for yourself.
Yeah, so Joe Conan out at Conan Automotive, he is in Stoughton. Well, you've seen him. He's our car care guy. He's our guy, right? He gives us our tips. So yes, I may sound silly, but I had him walk me through an oil change and the process and what to look for and what you should be getting and not getting. So
That's
in
so
case
important,
you're not.
though.
Yeah, and he talks a little bit about how often to get it. You know, there's some myths. My car has a sensor. I think
So does
most
mine.
vehicles do now, and tells you when to get an oil change. But sometimes it goes way beyond the recommended amount of time before it tells me I need an oil change. So I asked him about that. We'll find out when you're supposed to get one. I'm not telling you now. You gotta watch.
That's good information.
Yeah. My car must be older than yours because I've not had that. I don't have a sensor. I just tell it, you know, give me an alarm after 3,000 miles or 6,000 miles, and then it chimes to let me know your mileage is up. And
That's nice. Mine does a percentage
That's
of
nice,
your oil
yeah.
life.
too.
So, but that's interesting
But I
stuff.
can't imagine your vehicle is older than mine. I have the oldest car in the Madison area, I'm pretty sure.
We'll figure it out later, but you're on.
All right, challenge extended. Love it.
What else we got, Ellen?
We're also talking about taxes and some different things with taxes once you hit a certain age. And we're talking with Broyles CPAs. And it's really interesting stuff, and I know we were talking about too how it can just get so complicated, and it's so much information to know and to try and be an expert on. So it's so nice that Nicole is so informed, and I think she does a good job of explaining things too.
That's one of those categories in life. You think about paying for convenience versus doing it yourself and saving some money. That is one category that paying for convenience to me is totally worth it. I mean, it's your money.
Well put,
You know,
Jessa. Yeah, I agree.
You could cost you money to not pay for
Right.
the convenience
To do
of
it right.
Right.
Yes.
And penalties too, you know, you kind of got to be aware of that too, because it's not just a thing like it only betters yourself, it's really like legal things as well.
Even if you tried really hard to understand the tax laws and get it right, they're going to change next year anyway. So, leave it to the experts. Yeah.
That's so true.
Before we move on, I want to talk about how incredibly coordinated our outfits are today.
Now, this is much more important. to
Right,
us.
let's get to the important topiends. So, not planned,
Nope.
we have managed to wear all the same colors.
We're very in sync today.
Oh, that was just a side note.
Even how we sat down too. It was
That's
perfectly.
right.
But anyway,
Couldn't help but mention it. Now that you've all turned the channel, we'll tell you about our next guest who's
and
coming
we're
up.
also talking about something really interesting, and it's soap nuts, which I know all of us were kind of like, what is this? We have never heard of this before. And it's just such interesting stuff.
Well, I tell you, going organic in certain categories in your life is, in my opinion, a beneficial thing. I mean, you can't maybe do it in all categories, but we're going to learn a little bit about why it's important to do it in your soap products. And I mean, it really affects your whole family, especially if you have kids at home. And believe it or not, we'll learn a little bit about what the cost difference is, but I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely, yeah. You think organic is more expensive, but maybe not in this case.
It's very affordable.
Yeah.
And so all of that is coming up on this episode of Girl Talk. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to Girl Talk. We are having a great time here in studio. We're going to chat with Joe later in the show about car care tips. But now we're going to tell you about soap tips, believe it or not.
Yes.
Who knew there was so much to learn? There really is. We're really
There is.
excited to share some information with you. This is Pelly McClelland. They call her the Soap Nut Lady, and we're about to find out why. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me. The first question I want to ask is, would you eat your laundry detergent?
Not on purpose.
I know, but you are. You're eating it every day because you wear it. Acupuncture is 37 years, Soap Nut Lady for 5. So everything is absorbed through the skin. You wear it, you sleep in the sheets, you dry off with it. So we have an option that you can get out of it.
And that's your soap nuts.
It is the soap nuts. These little guys, this little bag will do 5 to 8 loads of laundry with no detergent or fabric softener needed.
Wow.
You just throw it into the wash and repeatedly use it. And I put them into a jar to kind of show you what happens.
It's so sudsy.
It
And you know,
is.
it's kind of just like blows your mind.
I know, and you know what? They're great for HE machines because the HE man says tell the women 2 things. Stop overloading the machine and stop putting so much soap in the machine. So because that burns out this little sensor and that's not a good thing.
Oh, really?
So we should say that these aren't just fancy little soaps that you have in a dish next to your sink. These are natural, this is nature's soap, right?
It is, and our bar soap, actually, I aged that for 2 months to take the moisture content down to 12% so that it lasts longer. I had a lady stop by the booth. I was just at the MREA fair, and she was sharing with people that she's had the same bar of soap in her, shower for like a month and a half. And she showers every day. So I wash my hair with it, wash my body with it, shave my legs with it. Your razor stays sharper longer. And then we've got the pods for the people that don't want to use the nuts. And the concentrate and the dishwasher. A lot of people don't think about your dishwasher, but again, the acupuncturist trumps. Where do you think that goes? First of all, it's hurting our earth. And secondly, when you put the glass under the tap and you see the bubbles, you eat that, right? And it reconstitutes on your plates, and we need to stop doing that. We need to actually take action, for our families and for this earth. It's time now.
Yeah, whatever you're putting on your plates and glasses, you're
Reconstituting.
you're putting into your mouth.
Yeah,
Right?
I was
Exactly.
thinking about like warm food. You heat something up, maybe,
Yes.
or you put a warm steak on a plate, for example. I mean, just
absorbs
think
it.
about how absorbing that is. So, okay, so Janet mentioned these are nature's soap. I like that term.
Yep, they
Tell
are.
us what is a soap nut? What does that mean?
A soap nut is part of the Stupendous mucorosae, which is
Say
the
that 3
deseeded.
times
I know.
fast.
Mucorosae, I just spent a Anyway, it's the deseeded fruit of the Stupendous mucorosae, and it grows on trees at the base of the Himalayas. It's nature's soap. And it's amazing. I mean, this, 330 loads in that bag right there. That's less than 8 cents a load. And you're paying 75 to 97 cents a load on an average.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you had said before we were off camera 8 cents a load, and I was trying to compare that to, I don't know how much I pay per load.
Right.
But I mean, I buy the pods.
Right.
Those are even more expensive, I think.
Sure.
So,
They are.
But because I like to drop them in like that.
I know.
I
See,
like
that's
to
why I
mess
have
with the
those
stuff.
for you, because just
Yes.
for you, those I make just for you.
Yes.
But unlike the pods that they have that the kids have been eating, and I probably shouldn't say the name, but the commercial pods, they are killing people. You can eat everything that's there on that table, and the worst thing that would happen to you is you would get some poop hands because it's nature's soap.
It would clean you out.
goodness.
Oh yeah, inside, outside, we've got this. I'm telling you.
Oh, I love how our conversations steer in other directions sometimes.
Well, with little kids in the home, you do have to be concerned about tucking away cleaners and things
Exactly.
like that. And the worst case scenario is, washing some
Yeah.
some pans, I guess. That's really interesting.
I tell everybody to bring everything that they have that's their cleaning products into the kitchen. And let's get a spoon and a bowl and a glass and let's start eating.
Wow.
If you wouldn't eat it, don't have it in there. You're hurting yourself, your family, and the earth. And we have to stop that.
And your pocketbook, it sounds like, too.
Oh,
Who knew that
absolutely.
this is
These are
actually a
very
cost
cost
savings?
effective. You use the dishwasher pods with white vinegar instead of like the other brands. And get your dishes clean, doesn't cause any harm. It's amazing stuff.
It's like a perfect little trifecta. It can clean your kitchen, your dishes, your home, your whatever. It's good for the environment, and it's so affordable.
Absolutely.
And so quick before we go to, where can people find these?
Oh,
Where
you can
they
find
buy
them at all 3 Hy-Vees. In fact, I will be at the Whitney Way tomorrow around noon, and then I'll be in the Fitchburg at noon on Saturday. And we're in Yahara in Stoughton. We're in the Granary up in Baraboo. We're in Bill's in Oregon, and we've just gone into Festival Foods in Janesville.
You are all
Awesome.
over the place. Fantastic.
am.
This just flew by. We barely asked you any questions, but we had a lovely chat.
It's okay.
Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you. You
Peggy
guys are
McClellan,
wonderful.
Soap Nut Lady. We're going to be back with more Girl Talk after this, so stick with us.
welcome back to Girl Talk. You know, one of the things I love about Girl Talk is the variety of topics we have on this program. We just got done talking about nature's soap, a great way to clean your home, your laundry. And later we're talking car care tips, and right now we're going to talk taxes and required minimum distribution with Nicole Broyles of Broyles & Company CPA. Thanks for joining us today, Nicole.
Thank you.
We love having you. You're so good at explaining how taxes and all those things work. So
Dumbing it down is what Janet would say. It's okay, I'll say it.
yes, I was trying to be diplomatic. Let's start with required minimum distribution, RMD. I know I've heard the term. Tell us about that.
It is a minimum amount that has to be taken out of your retirement plan. And that can include 401k, IRA, SEPs, Simples, profit sharing plans, any type of retirement plan. And that begins when you turn 70 and a half. So
We have a couple years, but okay.
hopefully so, yes. It has to be taken on an annual basis from there on. And the amount that has to be taken is dependent on the balance in your account, your retirement account, and your life expectancy. So the IRS has tables that dictate and will determine how much you need to withdraw from that account.
What if you don't? What happens?
Then you're subject to a penalty. It could be as much as up to 50% of what you were required to withdraw if it is not withdrawn on time. Now, there are some exceptions, and you can request a waiver if you did not meet that distribution deadline. And if you were expected to make the distribution, if you make reasonable steps to make the distributions and you are getting it corrected, then the penalty does have the ability to be waived.
Okay.
And then there are also some exceptions to actually having to take the distribution. The IRS, or actually Congress, made permanent a law last year that allows you to actually take the minimum distribution that you would have to take out of your retirement account and actually give it directly to a charity. And it doesn't have to then be taxed to you. So it goes directly from the retirement account to the charity. The charity benefits, you benefit because you save on taxes, but you're meeting your required minimum distribution amount.
Everybody wins. Sounds
Yes.
good.
Boy, you can see how just asking an expert to get you situated with that is worth it if you're going to end up paying in some way anyway, right?
Yes. And there are a couple of other exceptions. If you're still working, if you're 70 and a half and you're still employed, but you have a retirement account with your employer, you actually can delay taking the money out of the account, so as long as you're employed. However, if you have a separate IRA account, separate from the employer, you do have to take your money out of that account.
Oh my gosh.
And if you have multiple IRAs, let's say, multiple IRAs, a couple 401k accounts at old employers that you never moved, you actually have to figure the amount to take from all of those accounts. So all of the accounts have to be taken into consideration. But if you figure out that your total amount that you need to withdraw is $50,000, you can actually take the 50 directly from one account, not necessarily from each individual account. So you can pick and choose and decide which investments maybe are doing better than others, and you want to leave those alone and let them continue to grow, and take the money out of one that may not be doing as well.
Interesting that there's some strategy there as well.
Yes, and you will owe tax on the money that you take out. It gets reported on your tax return just like all the other income that you have. And so the employer, the company that's holding the IRA, they can actually withhold taxes from your distribution so that you're covered when you file your tax return and you're not short.
Wow. Okay. A whole lot of questions are spinning in my mind now. Where do I go next? I guess my next question, you may have answered in some way already, but talk to us about who is required to take the minimum distribution. So is it only age-based? So you said there's some other
Yes.
requirements, but tell
Anybody
us about
who
that.
is 70 and a half.
Okay.
And you have until December 31st to take that distribution. That very first year, there's sort of also another exception in that when you turn 70 and a half, so let's say you turn 70 and a half in July, you have until December on an annual basis to take the distribution, December 31st. However, that very first year, you actually have a couple more months. You can wait until April
Okay.
to take that distribution the year after you turn 70 and a half.
So my follow-up question is, there's so many different components to this that could affect an individual. So if we work with you, you're going to keep track of that for us, right?
Well, usually anybody who's holding the IRA, whether it's a bank or an investment company, your employer, they will actually usually send you a notice. Ultimately, it is your own responsibility to keep track, but the company will typically send a notice to anybody who is approaching that 70 and a half age and letting you know that your distribution requirement is coming up. You need to start planning for this.
So if I forget this by then, I may get a letter in the mail.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Retirement can be so tricky.
Yes.
Well, thank goodness we have people like Nicole. You can imagine we just barely touched on this topic and we're out of time already. So if you have your own questions, give Nicole a call over at Nicole Broyles Company and CPA.
Broyles and Company CPAs.
Thank you.
You're hired.
Yeah, you're hired. We'll be back with more Girl Talk right after this.
Welcome back to Girl Talk. As promised, we are going to talk to you a little bit about oil changes. We'll get some basics from the masters over here at Conan Automotive. And joining me is Joe himself. And how are you doing today?
Great.
So, we got to pick your brain as usual about some car things that we've got questions about.
Sure.
So what I want to know today is kind of give us some basics about oil changes. Everybody needs them.
Right.
So walk us through just some real basic things about what you're doing when we come in and get an oil change.
Well, it's pretty basic. What we do is obviously we just get the vehicle in the air, and we do a lot of basics up above as far as checking all the lights. We go through a simple, write down a list here as far as what we should check and so on, just to make sure everything is safe on your vehicle. We check as far as the suspension goes, we check the rear shocks, the front struts. We make sure there's no oil leaks, make sure the exhaust is intact and where it should be. Just check out the basic integrity of the underneath the vehicle, along with like the rust condition that happens in Wisconsin. Okay. We take a look at the tires, tell you the condition of the tires, just basically tell you the condition of the integrity of the whole vehicle. So
there's a lot more to an oil change than just the oil change.
Yeah, it's not just simple as just pulling the plug and changing the filter. No,
Right.
You got to check things out. A lot of people make mistakes by, it's fun to do your own oil change at home, but there's things that you just can't check when you're rolling underneath your vehicle in your garage on a Saturday afternoon.
Well, being able to get underneath the car like this, for one, has to be beneficial. I would have no idea what I'd be looking for, but being able to be under here and get the full picture. And talk to me a little bit, you mentioned that you look for rust. So how common is that being in Wisconsin after a long winter?
Well, the biggest thing is not so much the rust of the body panels, but like the rust of the brake lines, especially the brake lines, because there's not an indicator on your dash saying my brake lines are rusty and they're about to blow.
Right.
So when we look at the brake lines like on this vehicle, they're hidden up underneath here, but we look at those, and if there's bad spots, we'll let the customer know. It's like, okay, you got to keep an eye on this.
Right.
And it's getting to be more and more common now because people are driving their cars, 100, 200,000 miles, and it's starting to catch up. Right.
But yeah, absolutely, those are some of those safety things that we might not know to look for.
Right.
And we might not know to ask those questions whether or not our shop is checking for those things. So
Exactly.
awesome. Okay. Well, good pointers. Kind of walk me through just the process of an oil change. I really don't know what you do.
Well, now that the vehicle's up in the air, so half of it's actually done. We do a lot of checks when the vehicle's done. We check all the fluid conditions levels, top off the washer fluid, check all the lights, check the wipers, just basically check all the things that need to be looked at that you probably overlook. When the technician starts, he'll start by draining the oil, taking the filter out. We'll basically note the condition of the oil too, because a lot of times if you got like a leak as far as coolant leak into the engine, the antifreeze would come out first. So it's good to note the condition of the oil. If it's really sludgy, maybe advise the customer that they have to get their oil changed more frequently other than what they're doing now.
Yeah.
We look at like the condition of the hoses, especially like the radiator hoses going to the radiator, make sure that they're in good shape, not leaking.
Okay.
Just the biggest thing, like I like to stress, is doing maintenance versus repairs. Because let's say if we did this oil change and just kind of blew through it, and the customer takes it and they're on their way to work, or they're coming back from the grocery store on a Sunday night and the radiator hose fails, or something else happens that we should have seen when we did the oil change, well, that's the important thing. So I mean, yeah, an oil change, if you're paying like a $20 oil change, that's what you're getting.
Right.
But if you pay, you know,
Get what you pay for.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they're not looking at the things that need to be looked at.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, in our shop here, we're going to note everything, and sometimes we may be high, but we're not the one that's going to judge it. The customer's going to be judging what they want to fix on their vehicle.
Absolutely.
And if we didn't tell them what's going on, we're not doing a good job.
So you're going to make those recommendations
Right.
on all facets of the vehicle based on
Correct.
what you're seeing while you're doing the oil change.
Yeah.
And that's really what's, I think, important, because a lot of us, me, guilty, bring their vehicle in when they need an oil change or when their check engine light's on. And other than that, that's about it as far as when
Right.
you're going to get things looked
And,
at. So
and like with the 29-minute oil changes, like a lot of companies try to promote, you can't do a thorough job. You really can't. I mean, yeah, you're getting what you pay for, and you want it done fast. Well, the old saying, haste makes waste. Exactly.
Absolutely.
I just soon take 45 minutes or an hour, check the vehicle out complete, and then let the customer know that, yeah, you're good to go, or yeah, you got to address these problems.
Absolutely.
And it just makes sense.
And that's always a good reminder when we're talking to you is, it's really about staying on top of it and getting ahead of those repairs, trying to get the longevity out of your vehicle rather than waiting until something is wrong.
Right.
Or something has gone terribly wrong. That's when the expense really goes up as well.
Oh yeah, it goes up a lot.
Yeah.
Double, triple, whatever. But it's nice to know, it's nice to know if you're going to have a problem versus, oh my God, I'm going to wake up to a problem.
Right,
So-
absolutely. And I got another question about oil changes while we're on the topic. So some of the newer vehicles, mine isn't really all that new. I've got over 100,000 miles on my car, but I do have the notification of when I need an oil change. So it actually tells me percentage
Right.
of time to oil change. So tell me a little bit about the difference there if you can, because it tells me I need an oil change long after the recommended mileage. What are your thoughts?
I really, and this is my personal experience, whatever, my years in the business, I would ignore it.
Really?
If a customer asked me that, I would ignore it. I would stick to your mileage versus that percentage.
Okay.
It's just, I like mileage.
Yeah.
I'm from the old school, and yeah, we do either 4,500, or if you run the full synthetic, go 6. But I don't really believe in that. But the manufacturers say, they spend a lot of time and money, and the dealerships may, say that, do this. But I think it's going to come back to haunt them.
Well,
I really
and I
do.
think the other element there too is if you're a procrastinator like myself, what happens is you wait until it tells you you need an oil change. You may already be really past the time that you need an oil change, and then however many days or sometimes weeks then still goes by,
Right.
and you're running out of bad oil. So
Well, I mean, if for just quickly on that oil, if somebody can't, if you went out and bought a brand new vehicle today and you wanted to keep it for 150 or 200,000 miles, maybe that might be a lot to you, but I would suggest running a full synthetic oil right from the beginning. Change it every 6,000 miles. Don't worry about that indicator as far as percentage, and you'll get the life out of that engine. I mean, the products that they're building nowadays are superior to even what they built 5 years ago.
okay.
So
Great
just keep up the
pointers, Joe.
maintenance.
Well, thank you so much for walking
Thank
me
you.
through it. I greatly appreciate it. If you need some pointers, come on out to Stoughton and check out Conant Automotive. Joe's the master. Thanks to Joe, thanks to all our guests, and thank you for watching. Please join us next time.